we're now joined by Momah, who is a US-trained family and emergency physician, as well as Andrew Mamedu, who is country director at ActionAid Nigeria. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on Newsnight tonight. Let me begin with Mamedu, who is in the studio with us tonight. When ActionAid, as a non-governmental organization, listens to Trump and the U.S. foreign policy change when it comes to humanitarian aid, I mean, what's your reaction? What happens in Nigeria if the U.S. freezes its aid when it comes to projects like PEPFAR?
Okay, thank you very much. Just to say that the U.S. government's aid generally globally, it's something that is significant, up to 40% of global aid. So you would understand why, if the US in terms of aid sneezes and the whole world catches cold. And in terms of its order of preference, humanitarian comes first, and after humanitarian you have the health sector. So you have about 25% going to humanitarian response and about 20% going to health response. And this is just about 1% of their federal budget every year, which accounts for about $70 billion, globally. So with that amount being withdrawn, if it is withdrawn from the development sector, it will have a significant impact globally, particularly for Nigeria. So the US government, through USAID, PEPFAR, they've been known to set the pace when it comes to issues of HIV/AIDS. The CDCs in several countries, they've been taking a lead in setting all of those. So if funding definitely stops from there, it would affect it. I'll tell you simple statistics. Yesterday, I have a colleague that's a country director as well, that this funding is affecting, and 400 of his staff were laid off just yesterday. So clearly, because the huge portion of their funding comes from USAID, so clearly it's going to have a reverberating effect on not just within the development sector. It's going to affect even the economy. It's going to affect the livelihood and generally the world in general. Yes.
And Emeka, just coming to you, Mr. Momah, who's in our offsite studio. In that report by Olije Wapera, we had our Minister for Health, Lee Pati, and other speakers there saying this freeze might present an opportunity to prioritize self-reliance. Do you see this as a feasible turning point for nations to reduce their dependence on foreign aid?
Absolutely. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to take the bull by the horn. It's for us to now decide as to what our priorities are with regards to healthcare. Is healthcare a right or a privilege? I think, like I always say, the narrative is that if we have done so well in many other course of sectors, entertainment, aviation, banking, and like you, Rise TV as well, that's gone global. Why not healthcare? Why can't we prioritize the healthcare sector to be a value-added chain to the economy? It's something that we can embrace as a form of trade, which is healthcare. And I think if we do that, looking at it from that perspective, not as just a social service that's being rendered to the citizenry, we can actually reverse the trend, which is that there is a lot of economic value if we train and take the responsibility of growing the healthcare sector in many ways. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and I think the government has started well with Dr. Pate and the initiative by the presidency to raise the funds to balance out the issue with HIV. But we need to do better than that. We need to invest in our young doctors, young scientists, to actually create local solutions to this local problem, because we cannot expect the U.S., who spent in 2023 close to $600 million on just healthcare assistance. That's just assistance, not necessarily rendering any tangible benefits. So I think it's is we have to somehow come to the realization that the way things have been done the last 60 years, having USAID support Africa and Nigeria quite substantially, is no longer sustainable. And we need to sort of, like the minister said, take the bull by the horn and accept this challenge like we've done in many other sectors, like I said, aviation, entertainment, fintech, and likewise the news media, like what Arise is doing. So it's definitely possible we can do it.
Just to follow up on that, Mr. Mamedu, while we're talking about the idea of self-reliance, transition has to be gradual. This withdrawal of aid was quite immediate, and without adequate preparation can lead to some significant challenges. What sort of mitigations can we have for urgent need for people who are living with AIDS, who are dependent on such aids like this?
Yeah, I think transition has to be gradual. USAID was set up in 1961 by Act of Parliament. So with the Trump administration, of course, every administration has got its priority. If this is the priority of the administration, it ought to be gradual. So there are contracts that have been signed, there are contractors that are pending, including Americans. Workers are told to work from home, stay at home, stay off work. They don't have access to their laptop. Access to their laptops and all of that, but clearly it's going to affect not just other countries, but even Americans are affected. So how we're supposed to go gradually? How were we supposed to ensure that those contracts we have obligations for, we finish them, we don't sign new ones, or gradually we review and say which ones do we focus on? America is trying to say, okay, we no longer want to be the superpower of the world in terms of trying to save the whole world. We want to first of all save Americans. If that is the way they want to go, that conversation, that's huge. So nature ad hoc vacuum. So when there's vacuum, something has got to fill it up. Now that is where the Nigerian government comes to play. That is where other development partners definitely come to play. So who would bail the cat when it comes to this issue that America has left? But we think that it's not just Uhuru yet. 90 days will come and go, but let's see what comes after that.
Mr. Mamedu, catch your breath. I have a question for you, but let me quickly ask Dr. Emeka this question because he is a U.S.-trained family and emergency doctor. Dr. Emeka, I know you're practicing in Nigeria, I suppose, and you've been speaking with your colleagues. What's the feeling among Nigerian medical professionals? Because I watch the reaction in Uganda, and the health practitioners are worried because they are about to be overburdened, according to them. When the payments do not come to these community workers and those contracted workers, then it goes back to the existing health workers, and they are scared of strain coming their way. Is that also the reaction in here in Nigeria?
Obviously, there will be a major disruption within the healthcare system, internal healthcare rendition and delivery. That's quite understandable. But you see, we are at an extremely advantageous time as well with the application of technology in healthcare rendition. The mindset of most of my colleagues is that is a task that must be done, but we need to now implement various mechanisms of task shifting and being able to move the mindset of just doctors being primarily providers. We need to now challenge and skill up our nurses, our midwives, and even our community health workers to perform some of these tasks. With the advent of artificial intelligence, it's actually possible for doctors to see patients from a very long distance. So we have, again, like I was saying, a great opportunity to sort of change the narrative of what healthcare rendition and delivery has been over the last 60, 70 years in Nigeria. A lot of my colleagues feel very, very, very those who are practicing in Nigeria, obviously, and those actually in the diaspora feel very, very keen on how to be part of this narrative change for the next decade. Many of them are willing to give their time and skill towards helping to transition Nigeria into a greater health-dependent nation.
Very quickly, thank you so much. Andrew, let me ask you, because we cannot allow you to leave here without responding to this. When you listen to Marco Rubio, President Donald Trump, or Elon Musk, there's this question about transparency and accountability when it comes to the funds. And that's why they are saying we need to scale back, look at what is happening. Let me quote Marco Rubio. He said, excuse me, about 11 to 12.5% of every dollar that is sent through the US aid does not get to the people who need them. How do you respond as ActionAid, an NGO who's been benefiting from US aid, I suppose?
Okay, thank you very much. Just to say that some years ago, ActionAid did a research called Phantom Aid, where we discovered that, okay, so much of the money that is called aid comes in form of various kind of supports. So it might not be cash. And some of this money, so if US government gives you money, you have to buy a US pen, US vehicle. So the money is repatriated back to the US. So we understand that the system is not perfect. We totally agree that even within the sector, we're having this conversation. We are signing contracts. We are having internal review mechanisms. And all of those is towards strengthening the system. But that is not enough justification to pull the plug. So USAID can be more efficient. We agree. We totally agree with that. So Elon Musk and Donald Trump, the team, definitely we need to put in more work to make the sector a bit more efficient, not just for USAID, across board. Because the bottom line is the vulnerable group, the poor and the vulnerable group that we are looking at. Because if you look at the political economic dynamics of all of this, the whole aid architecture, where is it coming from? So US was developed under the sweat of slaves that came from Africa. 70% of cotton that the US used in developing and building its own economy came from the sweat of slaves from Africa. So if you go that way, so even including climate change currently, US owes over 370-something trillion in terms of carbon emission in calculation by global standard. So those are things that we're looking for ways to settle, and this is definitely not the way to go about it.
All right, so thank you so much for your insights, gentlemen. Emeka Momah, who is a US-trained family and emergency physician, and also Andrew Mamedu, who is country director at ActionAid Nigeria. Thank you, gentlemen.